and welcome to the first episode of the Talk About Script podcast, entitled The Post-Apocalyptic Pilot, which will give you a little hint of what we're about to talk about. I am Gareth Chappell, and I am here with the verbal runaway train, that is Charlie Carthy.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. Together, more widely known as the B-Tech version of Fraser and Niles Crane. So this is obviously the first episode of this, so it's no doubt going to go off into a awful ramble and become a complete car crash, but hey.
But what else are podcasts for?
That's exactly what we're here for. Okay, so the idea of this is we're going to have kind of one main topic, which we're going to start by talking about Amazon's awesome Fallout TV show. We're going to move on to something which is kind of surprisingly good, which we've seen, and we'll finish it off with a good old-fashioned bit of education and do a little Film School 101 on Mad Max Fury Road. So we're keeping it very post-apocalyptic today. So I'm going to throw over to Charlie here. So what did you think about Fallout?
I am loving this trend of apocalyptic America that's been frozen in a cultural bubble for, decades past by an mostly unseen war, usually involving nukes. Leaving a devastated land, a land of haves and have-nots, the have-nots usually becoming bandits and raiders, making tools, weapons, attempts at civilization out of recycled junk. And yet another one that can be available on Amazon Prime or Paramount or, and based off of an old video game that's from the 90s. Gareth, which franchise am I talking about again?
Yes, indeed. So, video game adaptations are all the rage, but obviously we're going to start out with Fallout here.
Yeah.
And we've had Twisted Metal, of course, but I suggest we're going to talk about that another day, perhaps. And also, this whole thing about, post-apocalyptic America and hidden wars, isn't that just actual America?
Yeah.
I mean, there's literally a movie out right now called Civil War.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you can't tell if you're watching the news.
When the trailer says coming soon, you don't know whether it's for the movie or whether it's just for reality.
Yeah, so as we move into this completely fictional account of a capitalist nightmare, which doesn't obviously represent anything that's happening in the real world. So if I start again with you, Charlie, if you want to pick up on we're both kind of avid video game players here, but weirdly, despite me being the person with the retro gaming website who has, been a retro editor for about 20 years, I'm not that familiar with Fallout 1 and 2.
So Fallout has been one of my favorite game franchises of all time. I started off with Fallout 3 when Bethesda released that. And then picked up New Vegas, and around about in the years between New Vegas and Fallout 4, I discovered, actually, Fallout 1 and 2 were released decades in the past and were very, very different than the modern versions you see now. Surprisingly challenging, but also absolutely amazing as a role-playing game because you get to fully direct your character and play and explore in the wasteland in a style that completely suits you. And your final result, or your version of the Vault Dweller from Fallout 1 or the Chosen One from Fallout 2 could be a absolute hero. They could be a wasteland terror, a nightmare, a slaver, just a murder machine. Or you could just fumble about, try to do your best, make mistakes, make things around you a lot worse, get your actions misinterpreted by other factions, and generally make the wasteland a bit of a worse place.
It's kind of, Lucy, I feel, represents the player. By the way, I'd just like to add a point. Charlie's there saying the Fallout games were released decades ago. This makes me feel very old here. Fallout 2 came out in 1997, ladies and gentlemen. just to say, so technically it is decades ago, but my God, that's definitely made me, shows the age gap between the two of us.
But Lucy is definitely a brilliant character to represent that Vault Dweller. Every Fallout game that starts as a Vault Dweller, having to leave the safety and comfort of their shelter and explore this dangerous wasteland and all the perils within, One of the most impressive things from the trailer and from the casting alone is that they got somebody literally so wide-eyed that can portray this character who is wide-eyed, plucky, positive, kind of innocent, having a lot to learn about the dangers of the wasteland, and that carries that can-do attitude of Vault-Tec.
I mean, clearly Amanda Seyfried was unavailable, but we'll go from there. Right, so one thing we are going to do with this podcast is try and highlight this in a slightly more kind of, hey, if you're an aspiring filmmaker, TV person type of way, this might be useful to watch because. So we're going to start. I mean, I think we can both agree there will be spoilers, by the way. I should just bring this up. I should probably play some kind of sound effect. So, spoilers, and here's shock jock sound effects number 1. There you go.
That's the spoiler horn.
That will not be happening again.
But yeah, we have to talk about every episode, and there are some specific details that make this a brilliant production. And a really good, well-made story and well-adapted story.
So we are going to try and dig into some details here. So first of all, we both really liked Fallout, and I think there's 100 places out there that are like, yeah, this is really good. It's a great adaptation. Blah blah blah. So that's fine, but we're trying to highlight a bit more specific than that. So we've kind of touched on this with Lucy already, but so one of the main aspects which works in Fallout is the characters. So if I can just outline, we are 3 main characters. So we have Lucy, our plucky vault dweller, who is probably the main character. We have Maximus,
yep,
who is okay, but he's kind of the wanting to be honourable, kind of naive knight, isn't he? They're all naive in their own way.
Yeah, he's still quite a fish out of water, but just one who has been shaped differently. Who having grown up in the wasteland instead of sheltered by it. But amongst his faction, the Brotherhood of Steel, and their brutality and the brutality of the wasteland, it's still given him a darker kind of naivete. He still doesn't know fully about the wasteland and how it all works and how it's all dangerous yet.
Yeah.
And is acting like he does. At least portraying himself like he does when he encounters characters like Lucy.
And I've been told not to refer to them as Ray and Finn.
Yeah.
Very, very it's a slightly lazy comparison, but
there are shades of it. I mean, you do have a young male character who is part of an impressive kind of imperialistic force that is recognizable by their armor, and who ends up. Do we want to say that he betrays? He doesn't quite betray the Brotherhood of Steel, but he doesn't follow their rules. He breaks them all for his own self-interest,
which kind of fits in with the capitalist nightmare undertones.
Yeah,
indeed. We probably just introduce the other 3rd main character, which is of course the Ghoul. What's his actual name? I can't remember his name.
The character, Cooper Howard.
Cooper Howard. The Roy Rogers of the situation. I've seen him described as the Clint Eastwood. That is not correct, because his Hollywood career is all about being the super clean good guy.
Yeah.
So his fall from grace is
advertisement.
Yeah.
Capitalism.
Yes. But the more dramatic, going from effectively kind of Mr. Rogers to the literal depiction of a nightmarish being.
Yeah, of wasteland evil.
Yeah.
So he's playing as Cooper Howard. We see loads of flashbacks of his career from the days before the war as an actor, and then as a, doing adverts and sort of representing Vault-Tec. Intercut with his adventures in the current day as the Ghoul, the wasteland cowboy bounty hunter who just literally blows up everyone in his path.
Yeah.
Bloody, brutal, and pretty much unstoppable.
I mean, he's definitely a good foil. I mean, what I really like about these characters is that they are completely independent in their goal. They all want something. I mean, they basically want the same thing, but but you've got these spiraling arcs, and they kind of meet up for a bit, then separate again, and cross paths, and sometimes they need to work with each other, and sometimes they need to work against each other. But they're all completely independent. So it's actually very clever how they do that. So it's almost like weirdly, and this is going to be a stretch, but bear with me. It's almost like the camera technique in Birdman, where like a character is carrying the camera with them, and then they like pass it off to the next character who then moves on with that.
Yeah.
And it's kind of flawlessly done. But yeah, it is awesome. Well, I have to say, whenever Lucy isn't on screen, I'm like, it's kind of a Poochie situation where I'm like, well, what's Lucy up to? Because she's the most interesting character.
Everyone should be asking, where's Lucy?
Yeah. It's all a bit of an inverse with Lucy as well. Suddenly it kind of dawned on me how many of these Golden Fleece-esque heroes start out as farmers. Also in post-apocalyptic, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, etc. So Lucy is actually technically a farmer. But the one weird thing about this is, like Luke, Frodo, they're really, really boring. And then they get more interesting. As I think Lucy pretty much nails the "Hey, I'm a quite interesting person" to begin with.
Yeah,
which is kind of weird.
So that's one thing I really enjoyed about the series. We'll get into talking about the opening scene in a bit.
We certainly will.
But the opening and introduction of the Vault and a Vault Society doesn't waste any time. For those people who have played the games or know the story, will know what the Vault's purpose is and how they are run. But for anybody who doesn't know, they're supposed to be these big underground shelters designed to hold like maybe 100 people, maybe more, for people to, wait out the nuclear apocalypse. But the company that makes them has always secretly run psychological or sociological experiments. And they're all different in each vault. And we get to see very quickly what's, weird, quirky, maybe unusual about this new Vault 33, that Lucy's in. What life is like having lived underground amongst the same faction, the same group for, 200 years. And how how they adapt to life and go on and act like their weird or unusual social norms are completely normal to them.
I must say, having lived in Cornwall for a large portion of my life, I didn't think it was that odd. So, I can say that, boys and girls, I am Cornish. It's fine. It's totally okay. It's true though. You stop doing cousin stuff.
Yeah,
it is true. That's a line from the show, by the way.
Talking about fooling around with your cousin is nice when you're kids, but it's not sustainable for a breeding program.
Yeah. It makes sense, boys. Listen to the people.
And saying it with such a smile on their face.
Yeah.
You can't help but love these, characters like that.
We also there is a kind of really cool secondary, I think soon to become main character in Lucy's brother who's introduced in the Vault. So we've got our three main out of the Vault arc, but there's a cool little subplot mystery investigation thing going on.
Yeah.
As well, which works really nicely as well, because you've the kind of Golden Fleece-esque journey on the surface, while you've got this kind of why done it situation going on in the Vaults. I mean, Blake Snyder would be incredibly proud of this show, I feel. God rest his soul.
But yes, on the brother character, Norm.
Norm, ironic name.
Norm. That's another character I didn't expect to enjoy as much. In his opening scenes, or throughout that whole episode, I really was expecting him to sort of be dismissed, or at least not focused on as much. And he's not presented in the most likable way. He's a bit of a he's a typical teenager where he just kind of he cannot be bothered with any of the. He has no enjoyment for the Vault life or for the Vault tasks that they do. Doesn't engage in the way that Lucy does, or their father figure, or their father who leads the Vault. They're all always happy and always hopeful about the Vault. He doesn't care and is literally small, weak, cowardly. And throughout the series, as he undertakes this investigation on his own. Into the irregularities of the Vaults.
Mysteries.
The mysteries. I really grew to love him by the end.
I think it does actually, for a piece, writing wise, very, very effectively. It actually switches your thoughts about characters incredibly quickly. I mean, Lucy is the lawful good character, effectively, or the good karma character.
Yeah, good karma.
But there are numerous characters. I mean, Norm is one of them. There's Lucy's dad. There's the head of the Raiders. There are numerous characters where you start going, oh my God, these people are awful. And then by the end of it, you've very, very quickly change your opinion about them. And that's really clever. And then there's the ghoul. It took quite a long time to actually grow on me as a character, but then the way he's kind of like the slow burn reveal character, but then you completely understand all his motivations and stuff by the end of it. It's really clever. I actually thought he was quite a weak character to begin with, but then by the end of it I was like, no, it's incredibly slow burn, nuanced writing actually, which is really
good. I mean, initially, because he is this unstoppable bounty hunter, the best in the Wasteland has ever seen. And when you see his action scenes, you see him like shooting up a whole town. He's using explosive bullets. He's got the bloody mess perk that is, where his shots are tearing people in half. And it seems to represent that type of player. The ones who just want to jump in and shoot things up and be the unstoppable warrior. But yeah, by the end, you do get to see why he is so. Do we want to say angry or angry, aggressive?
Yeah. I do like the fact as well that the two younger characters effectively haven't leveled up yet. It's quite a cool way of thinking about things. Like he's like 200 years old, so he's reached his like level. He's topped out the leveling system. Although I've read quite a few things about the fact that Lucy's approach to questing rather than combating wouldn't have allowed her to level as quickly as she had. That you have too much time on your hands.
Yeah, if you're thinking about it that way, I mean, maybe they've got their own tabletop rule book about progression system.
I do think though, as fine as he is, I do think Maximus is the weakest of the characters.
Of the three, yes, I really enjoyed seeing the training camp that he was in, and the competitiveness that all the aspirants, as they're called, these cadets in the Brotherhood. It's an aggressive competition to get to work anywhere near one of the Brotherhood Knights who wear the iconic suits of power armor. And when you get to see, Maximus has a friend in it, but a friend who we're not sold on the idea that he won't betray them and they won't betray him, to move up the career ladder. And I liked that kind of tense atmosphere that they have with the Brotherhood.
There's a nice tone there as well. It's somewhere between like Full Metal Jacket and Mean Girls.
That's it's I was definitely thinking Full Metal Jacket, but
it's I mean, it's something like
they rock up with their power armor. Get in, loser. We're going scavenging.
Yeah, I mean, get in again. It's very clever writing, as where 1 minute your Fallout is doing something quite funny is the wrong word, but kind of light-hearted, and the next minute you're looking at like kids being murdered in a nuclear war. The tonal shift, the amount of subject matters and different tones and things like that, which it weaves together and moves one from the other effortlessly, is incredible. Actually, again, it's really clever writing.
It is, and it's one of the things that I really enjoyed because the games have this dark humor. It is ridiculous at times, not just from like the design of creatures and monsters, but also just the way different situations that you can get yourself in. For example, one of my, New Vegas is full of them. You can get ambushed by a gang of grannies with rolling pins.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, you can discover a skeleton wearing a fedora in a fridge. Hiding in that did not keep him safe from the blast.
I do like the fact that Maximus was obviously a fan of Indiana Jones, because Maximus himself also hid in a 1950s fridge.
Yeah. He did.
Clever.
But yeah, the show seemed to capture that dark humor alongside the actual drama incredibly well. Pairing that along with the soundtrack, the best choices of songs.
The music's incredible.
Yeah. I was definitely singing along to them because, like, having listened to them for so long in the games. But yeah, and
so you've got this, just obviously it's kind of this faux Western kind of soundtrack. A lot of the kind of old school 1950s tunes, all played weirdly in what should be completely the wrong places, but somehow it all kind of works. It kind of, and again with the ghoul, you're not sure if he starts out as Roy Rogers, and he's a bit Gary Cooper, and it's kind of like, where, he's supposed to be a good guy, and he's Lee Van Cleefing it all the way to be the real kind of Man in Black. But he started out as Mr. Rogers, so I don't know how to feel about this.
And it's something that, well, I knew I could trust Jonathan Nolan when they said that he was writing this, because of that Man in Black character that he wrote in Westworld.
Yes.
And as trailers came out and showed the ghoul, it's easy to see. Yeah, he's playing that role.
There is a lot of Yul Brynner in there, actually. I hadn't even considered that, but there is a lot of Yul Brynner was obviously the original Man in Black from the Westworld film.
Oh, in the Westworld film,
a very famous Western, as in Western actor. There is a lot of Yul Brynner in the style. That's obviously a clear postmodern influence. Right. So I'll move us on a little bit. So we want to talk about the opening, and I think with that comes kind of something else which we should probably highlight, which is how kind of cool both the visual effects and the physical makeup and physical effects are in this, which kind of really helps to level off the kind of the reality of this situation. So very brief. I mean, if you haven't seen it, you should probably, take a few minutes away from the podcast and go and watch the first 5-10 minutes of Fallout, because it's one of the most effective things I think I've ever seen. I don't say this lightly, but the depiction of a child's birthday party juxtaposed against a sudden nuclear bomb, multiple sudden nuclear bomb drops in the middle of LA, framed with a guy on a horse trying to escape with his daughter. It is probably one of the most horrifying things I've ever seen.
It's haunting.
I mean, it's definitely up there with the start of The Last of Us. Yeah. Which was the last time I was like, you know what, I just need to pause this for a minute. I actually think that's very different from the tone from the whole rest of the show, I have to say, because that was like that, whoa.
Yeah.
Kind of.
It's the most that we get to see of pre-war life in the Fallout stories. I think the only other thing that we had seen or got to experience from the game was in the beginning of Fallout 4. But all you're doing is pottering around the house and looking after the baby, and then you run to the vault. This actually gets to show, establish who Cooper Howard is. Why, as this cowboy actor performing at a kid's birthday party, why the kids love him, why the dads all are making fun of him, why is he doing a kid's birthday party?
Yeah.
Oh, alimony. But the love that he shows for his daughter, working with him, that he wants to that he actually wants to be with her all the time and keep her safe.
I must say that horse must be damn fast.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. Because that was it, that fourth one that goes off, which is like next to him. And then, I mean, obviously the daughter, I think, is going to be a plot point as we move forward. And
the idea that apparently has been debunked, the method of gauging how far a nuclear blast is by holding up your thumb in front of it.
Oh, yeah.
That being linked to the iconic Vault Boy thumbs up pose. Had never made those connections before. And that amazed me. And then when we see the daughter, she sees the blast in the distance and just slowly holds her thumb up. That was scary.
There's some terrifying bits in that opening sequence. I mean, I think it's one of the most impressive things I've seen. I'm not a huge television fan anyway. I mean, but there's been a lot of good stuff lately, and that is one of the most effective individual scenes. If you're going to line that up in like the top 10 best individual scenes, that is definitely up there. And we're not, it's not kind of hyperbole. As it were. It's definitely that. Whoever thought that up is an absolute genius.
Yeah, it really quickly takes us from comfort, almost opulence. It's definitely like hyper consumption, a culture of hyper consumption there. But like perfect white picket fence suburban America to absolute chaos and terror at their response to the bombs.
Yeah.
All within the first 10 minutes.
I mean, it just go again. That's a very, very strong opening image and setup of your world. So from a script writing point of view, it works again incredibly well. Again, Blake would be very happy with that. As an opening image, it works. I think if you'd never played the games and you saw that opening image, you'd be like, I get it. I get what this is about. I can understand everything that follows just based on what I've just seen, which is remarkable, again, for what is a video game adaptation.
And even for a video game adaptation, for an apocalyptic world that's full of sci-fi and weird lasers and tech and robots. Going back to the topic of visual effects and practical effects, even that scene of the bombs going off in LA looks incredible. It doesn't look like it's digital.
Looks real, doesn't it?
And it's the kind of thing that you would think, well, that's, they would use a virtual production screen. If Disney were doing it, it would be in a volume. They'd be standing still on a hill watching as a big mushroom cloud rises. But no, they take a camera and follow a guy riding a horse on the Hollywood hills, riding away to escape several nuclear blasts. And it doesn't, it's seamless. It's actually seamless that you can't tell what's the digital version.
It's got nuclear bombs seem to be very in at the minute. I mean, I must say, we've seen Godzilla Zero, obviously, which we may come back to.
Yeah, that's still got the best depiction of an atomic blast.
Well, you've not seen Oppenheimer, but I think it's a big statement to make when you haven't watched Oppenheimer. But I think they're three very different techniques, and all of them work very, very well. Fallout's is the most terrifying.
Yeah.
If we move on to some of the other effects, I mean, obviously, I'm assuming the ghoul had all practical effects on him.
Yeah, that was that was makeup. And I forget the name of the makeup artist who did it. I will be able to look it up. But but we've seen videos have been coming out that show him applying it on Walton Goggins, and incredible work. And it does let him act, express with his face. Whereas I've seen fan films like Fallout Nuka Break, and cosplayers doing it, and ghouls must be really hard for makeup to put on, taking 6 hours or so, but also being restrictive in your face, you can't squint your eyes or scrunch your cheeks as much. But
he's got a lot of impression. I mean, weirdly, it's kind of like the Mandalorian, where the Mandalorian's got his helmet on, but you know exactly what his facial expression is.
Yeah,
it's very, very odd, very effectively done. I have to say the consistency of it as well, Lucy with her Vault suits. I mean, I said we look forward to everyone turning up at their next cosplay convention in their Vault suits. Hey, Charlie.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Charlie's.
I'm definitely doing it. I've got my.
Yours doesn't count because you're going as the Naked Raider.
Oh yeah, so, I've done the NCR Ranger before, but I'm gonna ditch it all for a summertime cosplay and go as the Naked Raider.
Yeah, and the Bride.
Yeah.
So, and the CGI that is in play with kind of the creatures and stuff, they're used very sparingly. I mean, there's obviously quite a lot of virtual production in terms of making how the skies look and some of the panning shot. I mean, you couldn't do it any other way unless you had someone doing matte paintings and stuff. And I think I don't know. I don't think that's appropriate in this sense. As wonderful as those look. But it's all blends together really well. I hate CGI. I mean, I go constantly. I'll sit there in a movie and go, I can tell that's CGI. I don't like it. But no, this really had me. I think it was too indistinguishable.
The part that
works really well.
The part that really got me that, I love some good VFX, but I like them when they use sparingly or you applied in the right place. But the part that I couldn't quite tell whether it was practical or a blend of digital and practical was the Mr. Handy.
Oh yeah, Mr. Handy.
Getting to see him in a claustrophobic space, 3-armed robot floating in the air, having a somewhat normal conversation with Lucy, played by the incredible Matt Berry, who More scenes of him, please.
More Matt Berry. I mean, I have like a dream of one of the episodes where there's like 100 Mr. Handys and they're all being voiced by Matt Berry at the same time.
That's exactly what he wants, to come home to his own house and be greeted by his own voice.
I mean, I think it could only have been better if they'd had Mr. Handy as Matt Berry and some of the other robots as Rodney Dangerfield. I mean, or maybe a Leslie Nielsen robot.
Yeah.
But, I mean, have these people licensed their voices for use by AI before they passed away?
Well, we've only seen the Mr. Handy.
Yeah.
We see it like the destroyed Assaultron, but we don't hear any other voices. So we've got other robots that could use other voices.
Please give me a Leslie Nielsen Assaultron.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine? I mean, I might just retire from life.
Oh, if only we could get Rodney Dangerfield as the Protectron, the big lumping, clunking robot.
Hey, you shouldn't be in here.
Yeah, I tell you, get no respect at all.
No respect.
I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell. It looks like a puppet.
It must be. I mean, I'm sure the spinning blade and stuff is CGI, but if that is CGI, I take my hat off to that. Some of that must have been physical.
Yeah,
like I'll have to look it up,
but absolutely incredible. And then seeing how the Brotherhood suits are practical costumes.
I presume they're not practical when they're flying, though.
Yeah,
because that looked dodgy. I'm sorry, I have to say, this is the one point when I first saw the Brotherhood of Steel coming in and they were landing, and I was like, "What is this? Power Rangers?" It's just like, but everything other than that, fine.
So that'll be the thing to edit, the Brotherhood's entrance, either from the show or we can do it from the game as the vertebrates fly in. Yeah.
I mean, have they not seen? This is one of those things where it's like, oh, hang on a minute, like highly armored metallic people coming off drop ships. I mean, have you? If only there was some kind of Star Wars based reference material they could have used to kind of iron that out a little bit.
Yeah, almost the introduction of the young character who goes off on his own using their tech.
I mean, by the way, we should also say people are going, but it's so similar to other kind of things like Star Wars and other sci-fi. It's like, yeah, they're all Golden Fleece movies. Like, it's the same story. It's all Jason and the Argonauts, guys. Just get over it, all right? That's not, that is not a valid criticism. It's all fine.
Pretty much,
you can't watch The Creator every day.
Oh, but yeah, that's the common theme with post-apocalyptic movies. It usually is a golden fleece.
Yeah.
Characters leaving a zone of relative safety and comfort to travel across a treacherous land, facing all sorts of beasts and dangers in order to get some kind of treasure. It's every Fallout game. It's this Fallout series. It's Twisted Metal. Can you think of other ones?
I mean, yeah, post-apocalyptic wise, obviously you've got Last of Us.
Yeah.
Numerous TV. I mean, there's loads of 1980s Rutger Hauer movies, Sleet of the Jaga, things like that. I mean, again, that's a whole other podcast where it's just, people walking. I mean, we haven't even talked about Mad Max, but we'll move on to that.
Yeah.
But not just that. I mean, I like the fact that you can go to Fallout and go, yeah, it's basically the same movie as Lord of the Rings. Because they're just like looking for food in the wilderness and trying not to get killed by raiders. It's the same film, boys and girls.
I've described it as Mad Max meets Doctor Strangelove.
Yeah, and just to bring it back to a more serious educational vibe for 1 second. If you're out there thinking, hey, I don't understand what postmodernism is, I mean, watch Fallout. It references stuff, I mean, to the point where it's even influenced by stuff which is influenced by it. I was watching it going, oh, that reminds me of, like, I don't know, this other movie, which obviously originally took inspiration from the Fallout game, and then we've been made into a TV show.
Yeah.
Which, again, we might come on to that. Well, we will come on to that in a minute. But, like, there is so much that if you know your film and TV history, you've got all the Mr. Rogers stuff, you've got the general Western stuff, 1950s Hollywood, like General Captain's Cup, Stepford Wives, every horror movie ever made, like 2001: Space Odyssey, like all of that stuff, like the robots, and
even the art design of some of the of the robots for sure, some of the ships, to some extent the Brotherhood armor, the robots, especially as you see more of them in the games, do give me a bit of Jetsons.
Yeah, and
Right.
also those
Retrofuturism.
those drop ships. I mean, they're HKs from Terminator.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, they are. they just are. It's fine. And the Brotherhood of Steel is obviously also influenced by Warhammer, which has then obviously been influenced by I tell you, it's just gonna be a lot of confidence for all these Warhammer properties we're gonna get.
I'm waiting with bated breath.
So yeah, if you're into your postmodernism, poor you for a start. But yeah, Fallout is the one for you. Impress your lecturers today by referencing it. Right. Any final thoughts? Do you want to sum up on Fallout, Charlie? Any final thoughts?
Absolutely watch it.
Yes, definitely watch it.
Strongly recommend. For those who have played the games, even just one or two of them, you will enjoy it. If you haven't played the games and you don't know anything about this franchise or history, should still enjoy it. And like you said, Gareth, it's full of postmodernism. It's got dark humor. It's got amazing characters that are incredibly well written, and we get to follow on their journeys and change our opinions about them. And yeah, hopefully it would inspire you to watch more and maybe play the games as well. Have a go at your own adventure.
And also prepare you for what will likely happen in the next 5 to 10 years.
Oh yeah, start collecting and keeping your bottle caps, people.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, we've had this, Civil Wars in the cinema, which to me just looks like a news broadcast, as we said before.
We have Monkey Man.
It's all there. We've got
one man going against the establishment.
We've got a new Mad Max Furiosa movie coming out. It's all there. Right, anyway, I'm going to move us on a little bit. There you go. Right, so I'm going to just move us on to, as we're on this post-apocalyptic pilot vibe, of an unexpectedly awesome film, which I watched. Now, I don't think Charlie has seen this.
I have not.
No.
Gareth, can you tell me what this film is?
Right, we'll just do a quick sum up of here. So, lurking on Netflix, in Netflix way that it never knows how to promote anything it's got that's good, is a movie called Love and Monsters, right? Now, let me describe the plot to Love and Monsters to you and see if it rings any bells. So, there's this in this sense a teenage boy, and he lives in a vault.
Okay.
Right? Now, why does he live underground in a vault? Well, there has been a monster-lips.
A monster lips?
Or a monster-apocalypse.
Oh, okay.
Right?
I was picturing a big pair of lips on a giant beast.
So there hasn't... I don't think there's been a nuclear bomb. But for whatever reason it is, and it is explained, but, I don't care. The surface, all the creatures on the surface have become dangerously mutated, and it is no longer safe for humans to inhabit. The only difference with regards to this and the property we were just talking about is it's actually not safe for the humans to inhabit. So, no one lives on the surface.
Nobody at all?
Nobody lives on the surface. Ooh. Because I don't know if you've checked how many bugs and frogs and stuff there is out there. There's more of them than there are of us. I know we're doing our best to kill them all, but, there we go. So, basically, he's bored, as a teenage boy tends to be. So he thinks, hey, I know what I'll do. I'll look up my old high school sweetheart and see if I can find her on the radio, as you do.
Of course.
Now, we'll just overlook, how difficult that would be to begin with.
Yeah.
But he does a little bit of weird investigating, which would never work, because no internet. It's not like you can go on, Friends Reunited? Oh, I'm aging myself again. Jesus. Facebook and stalk these people. Anyway, he finds her, and she lives on the coast somewhere. Or she lives in a vault somewhere, but they can't triangulate how far away they are from each other. And eventually he works out that she's not that far away. I can't remember exactly how it is, but it's something like 40 miles.
Do they make contact from the safety of their
They do.
vaults?
They make contact from CB radios.
Oh, okay.
Right. So he thinks, hey, I'm a teenage boy. I'm bored. There's a girl over there.
Yeah.
Probably worth death. Okay.
So just chiming in on the radio. You up?
yeah. Late night Drake style calls on the telephone. Yeah, no mobile phones in this world, so they've just got their CBs. So basically, he climbs to the surface. He kind of makes his treacherous journey. Picks up a dog on the way. I mean,
Of course.
Of course.
Yeah. What is a wasteland or post-apocalyptic adventure without a best boy to accompany you?
But just a script writing bugbear here. Well, not a bugbear, but the reason they give characters pets, boys and girls, is so they don't have to talk to themselves, because that's weird. So next time you see a dog and you think, oh, that's cool, it's because the writer couldn't work out how to make them have dialogue without another thing there, okay? Which is fine, So eventually, anyway, he makes this dangerous, kind of cool trek across the the wasteland. He encounters some really cool looking monsters, and this is what's great. So this movie that you've never heard of, everybody, was nominated for an Oscar. Would you believe this little movie? And it hasn't got a super huge budget. It was nominated for an Oscar for best visual effects.
For best visual effects, wow!
And the effects are awesome. They don't look like the general effects you would think. There's obviously a mix of CGI and physical stuff here, but they are really creative. Like, you think you know what a mutant frog looks like, but
tell me, what does it look like?
Well, it's just kind of twisted. So you think we've all got our image, but now, like, the way they twist it around, they make it so grotesque.
I'm picturing a giant-sized, 10 to 15 tall, at least, size frog that with a big croak that almost hits you like a sonic cannon.
Yeah, it's more tongue based, I think, in a sense. But it's like the pulsating nastiness of it all. It's really gruesome.
Is it how furious is this tongue on a scale from 0 to Jar Jar Binks?
Yeah, it's definitely up there in the Binks scale. It's definitely, and it tries to eat the dog, so the frog's bad.
That's the other reason they give characters a dog or a pet, because somebody else needs to be in danger.
Put them in peril. Anyway, so he wanders across this apocalypse. I won't ruin it all for you because I know you're all going to rush and watch it. But of course, he eventually gets to this thing, and shock horror, the Golden Fleece journey he's made. He doesn't quite get the prize that he's hoping for, boys and girls. No. That'll be a shock to everybody.
But that never happens.
I know, but he did make some friends along the way. And isn't that the real treasure?
Yeah, that's the real treasure.
But it is really cool. And then he eventually kind of gets this other vault and stuff happens. And then there's some other cool monsters. I do believe there is a giant mutated crab, which pirates are using as a ship. I'm just saying. Or I think they've got it on chains or something. It's amazing.
So that alone, that's a reason for me to go and watch it.
It's cool. It's really cool. So if you do, it's not super long. It's got no one in it you've ever heard of. But it's really nice and it looks awesome. Like it looks nasty. Stuff looks proper I've never seen. I'm colorblind, boys and girls, and I can't see green. But this film is green. Like this is a level of green that you should be running away from. Okay, it is the snottiest color of green you have ever seen in your entire life.
Oh, of course, yeah.
It is.
The kind that you want to, it sounds like the kind of movie that you want to sit down and eat a nice meal with.
Don't do that.
Something with plenty of sauce that can drip from your knife and fork as you watch this teenage boy encounter, I'm guessing, snotty,
lot of green,
gross, drooling.
Oh, there is lots of fluids in this, boys and girls.
Slippery and slickly wet.
Yeah,
beasts of all kinds.
This will put you off any kind of fluid exchange for a very long time watching this film. I also say what it reminded me of, and again, I'm going to really age myself here, even more than my esteemed colleague beside me. It reminded me of having He-Man toys, and you used to get tubs of slime that you could put through this thing and tip on them.
Oh,
imagine a 90 minutes of being covered in that. That's basically where we're at with this. Okay. So yeah, if you haven't seen it, it's on Netflix. It's a Netflix original. So it is still on it. I'm going to be proved wrong by this. Depending on what country you're in, I would imagine. Love and Monsters. Yes, it is well worth a watch. It's about 80 minutes, 90 minutes. Great film. Okay. So the final thing we're going to do, because we want to be useful and a little bit informative to you, what is post-apocalyptic landscapes without a little bit of Mad Max? So I'm just going to do this briefly from kind of a film school 101. Hey, I don't know much about films. What can I take away from the film that's useful? And maybe if you're a younger person out there and you're watching something like this with your parents and they utter the words like, oh, this is crap, you can go, no, actually, you are wrong. So we're on Fury Road. It's the most useful of the 4 Mad Max films. Furious is not out yet, right? So from a hey, I want to be a filmmaker point of view, Fury Road is by far the most useful. And surprisingly, I mean, it's chaos and all of this, but the thing that
it has a very, very simple premise to it, though.
It does, and there's also a film I don't like, but we've spoken about this before. The fun of a golden film, we're going to go all the way there, and then we're going to go, hey, why don't we just go all the way back? But anyway, that everyone, I am clearly wrong because everyone disagrees with me about this. But the key thing about Fury Road, amongst all the craziness, you'll be sitting there watching it going, hey, there's all this craziness going on, but I'm following the action. Why? Normally when I watch movies, perhaps directed by Sir Michael of Bay, and there's chaos going on. Chaos is going on. I'm sitting there going, what the hell is that? That robot's brown, and somehow the CGI in that robot has turned grey, and it's shot really close up, and I don't know what's happening.
So why do films like that give you a headache and Fury Road doesn't? Considering it's a movie that's mostly around driving in a desert and people jumping between cars and trucks.
Well, let me tell you, Charlie. It's about stability, boys and girls. So Fury Road just does this cool little thing where during the action sequences, no matter how chaotic things get, when it cuts from frame to frame, they always start the next frame with the camera in the same position as you've left the previous frame. And so if the camera is focused in the middle of the picture, a character doing something in the middle, like loading a gun or something like that, when we jump to, I don't know, the next frame, which is a raider trying to jump through the window, the focal point of that raider's face will also be in the middle of the picture. Or if something is happening at the bottom of the screen, when we cut to the next thing, something will be happening at the bottom of the screen.
Interesting.
Now, what that lets you do as a viewer over extended action sequences is it means you don't get tired out, because you're not constantly looking around the screen going, what the hell is going on? If you don't do that, and the film isn't that considered, what happens is you get something called action fatigue, which is where you just start to go, I am exhausted by this, and I can't be bothered to follow what the hell is going on anymore. Okay, so I think they're obviously very aware. And Mad Max is supposed to be full on and this and that. I mean, my God, there is a guy playing an electric guitar with flames coming out of it with like a GIMP mask on. I mean,
yeah.
You know, it's an odd film. But whenever you get into these chaotic action sequences, they're not as chaotic as you think. So they're actually giving you time to adjust and see what's going on and saying, hey, this is important. And it even gets away with the fact that the whole thing is like jump cutted to hell, which is something else you probably don't even notice. Whenever someone like loads a gun or picks up a weapon, so they get the bullet for the gun in their hand, and then suddenly the bullet is in the weapon. It's like jump cutted and jump cutted.
How many times have you noticed that in any kind of film or TV? That scene, the full action between taking, ejecting a magazine or ejecting the shell casings and taking some new ones and putting them in, every time, apart from every time a character is going to describe his process for revenge.
Montage.
Yeah, this time it is personal as he's clicking in individual bullets and then finally cocks it with that beautiful sound effect. But yeah, that kind of stability that would be the reason why you don't notice these jump cuts and you don't get, as you said, you don't get fatigued by the frantic, manic action that is constantly happening. I mean,
it also works with the jump. The reason you jump cut is because it's saving shots.
Yeah,
effectively. So you're keeping the pace. The audience member thinks they've seen it happen. So you're not losing it. They do it, and you'll start to notice this now in loads of stuff. But the most like basic of everyday occurrences where you see jump cuts and stuff, like Black Klansman's got a scene where a guy lights a cigarette, and you think you see him take the cigarette out of his pocket, take his lighter, light his lighter, and light the cigarette. And you don't. He puts his hand in his pocket. He's got the cigarette up at his lips. He picks up a lighter, and then the cigarette's lit. And you think you've seen the whole sequence, but that's that again. That is something for another day, perhaps. But yeah, so next time, people are moaning at you for watching Fury Road. No, I mean, it came out a few years ago.
You've got to see your perspective is that is it that it's boring or that it's got a rubbish story?
I mean, both. I mean, take your pick. I also think that Tom Hardy is inaudible.
Yeah, that's been that. Yeah, that I will agree with you on it. That it's the one. It's not even a problem because it's not really Max's story, is it?
It's a Furiosa story.
This is a Furiosa one, but Tom Hardy is still doing the Bane voice, but without the mask.
Yeah, Tom Hardy then did a whole load of films where he either had to have a mask on his face or mumble for some reason. Dunkirk, spent the whole film talking like this. And obviously Bane and things like that. But
and granted, the guy can act with his eyes and with his body on it, but that voice is. I actually cannot remember if whether Mel Gibson sounded anything like that. I'm sure he did not.
No, he didn't. No. Mel Gibson sounded like Mel Gibson.
And there was a lack of Australians, I don't know, Australians.
Lack of Australians, I think, is more to
in
the
this
point.
One. When you look back on original Mad Max, and I'm talking like original before the world was devastated, it just looks like it's outside of Melbourne in the 1970s, guys having a punch up with a biker gang outside
It's basically
the pub.
Priscilla, Queen of the Desert with guns.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's Priscilla. Yeah, it's brilliant. But yeah, that is so Australian. It's so bogan. And it's incredible chaos.
You expect Scott and Charlene to roll through it any minute. It's just like, it's so Australian.
But I think one of the things that I love about Fury Road, and part of what makes the action so gripping, so tense, so electrifying, and this would speak to how they're able to keep that stability that you talked about. Is that it's a film it does have a very simple premise. You're driving across the desert to somewhere, and then you turn around and drive back. It's not much of a script, but the storyboards that show this action are incredible. There was something like over 3,000 panels drawn from it.
Oh yeah, it's incredible from a technical point of view. It's one of those films that you're like, yeah, that should get all the technical awards, but whoever the writer is, needs a word.
But to be able to visualize action scenes to that extent, it allows you to fine tune them, to get to keep the audience's attention, to make sure that when our eyes aren't darting across the screen from left to right to up and down, that we're looking in the corners of everything, and that we're not losing energy, losing pace throughout any of these sequences.
I mean, it's a definite example of why you need to properly storyboard.
Yeah,
or else those scenes just don't work. But
even the quieter segments, like when they can hear the baddies coming from the distance, when it's at night, and Max just goes off in the distance past the dead tree, and you just hear the crying and the gunshots and walking back, and that waiting for him. Incredible. Like, it's tense, and it's, slow, I guess. It's slow in terms of script and story, but you can't stop watching it.
No, I mean, it's definitely a film that looks great in stills.
Yeah.
I mean, I think at some point on this podcast we may do a I love you hate kind of vibe, which this could have quite easily. I don't hate it. I just think it's boring.
Yeah.
So,
but
but useful, boring but useful. There are many of these.
Yeah, perfect for an I love you hate, because there's bits about it for bits.
But you'd never pick this over The Matrix, but that is an argument for another day.
Yeah, we'll save that argument.
Right. I think if there's nothing else, we should probably wrap this up, Charlie.
Yeah.
So, any final thoughts from you before I wrap up?
More apocalypses, just in films. Please, not in real life. Otherwise, save your bottle caps.
Indeed, definitely save your bottle caps. That's why they're attaching them to the bottles now for when you recycle them. That's what it is. They want their bottle caps back. They know what's coming. They know what's coming. Right. Okay. Well, I think it's probably time to sum this up. Joining me has been Charlie Carthy.
Thank you very much.
I am Gareth Chappell. If you want to make contact, you can do that. At the minute, the only real way to do that is via Instagram, at TalkAboutScript. So you can DM and follow and comment. You can also find me over on Retro 101 if you want to talk about video games. So just put that's the website or the Twitter or the Instagram. You know who I am. Other than that, thank you for listening. Any feedback is,
Yeah, tell us what we've done right. Tell us what we've done wrong.
You can tell us what we've done wrong, and I'll ignore it. That's fine. Yeah. I have a vision, and it will be seen. So, it's all good. It's all good. But yeah, give us all feedback, and apologies if this has been a little bit ropey, but that's how it goes with podcasts. I'm sure it'll get better if we decide to carry on doing these. Thoughts on what our next one will be? I suggest we're probably going to do Fall Guy and Drive, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah,
subject to change.
Yeah, the look back. Yeah, the look back over Ryan Gosling the last 5 years.
Yeah, less about Ryan Gosling this time, maybe.
Oh yeah.
Well, we'll see how this goes. I have to check with my other celebrity crush if it's okay. So it's fine. Right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll see you next time.